Hello and welcome to another jungle video, and in this one we shall look at the Season 10 jungle meta and the impact on ganking and farming. Now that aspect of jungle experience remains the same in Season 11, but with new items comes new overlords. The best junglers I just released shows you 8 carry junglers and 8 tank junglers that are dominant at the moment. However, with each comes a different playstyle, so I will show you a few games through the eyes of Kayn and Rast, and the impact of this on the gank versus farm versus how do I do both game style. And that's because the answer to should I gank or should I farm is always yes. It really does depend, but hopefully we can isolate the examples of when you do each. And on that note, if you enjoy and learn something, please consider leaving a like and of course subscribing. Don't forget to join me on Planet 9, the streams will resume shortly. We will have a 1v1 tournament as well. And now without hesitation, let's begin. So the first game up will be the LP machine Amumu, and he is a tank and he is against the Kayn. And in this first game as Kayn, obviously you will be able to outfarm. Obviously you won't be able to match the ganking cadence, and obviously if your lane states don't, give you the better end of a 2v2 or a 3v3, you're not going to be able to be as active as the Amumu will. This means you still want to scale into Rast very well, get those orbs, get that farm, and ensure he doesn't get free ganks, fights, and objectives. Kayn will obviously do a full clear. The Amumu will do an inner 4 camp / 5 camp flex gank route, meaning he can do 4, look for the gank if it's available, if not, do the grump, do the crab, and then look for a dive. Now Fiora does leave an early ward that will give that information to the red team. The nature of Kayn's lanes aren't exactly beautiful. Fiora Kayn vs Aatrox Amumu, Silas, yes, but it's still an echo, so that's kinda tough if no CC hits. Jhin Alistar, yes, we can gank for that, but it is a Poppy and Samira, so that has to be well set up and beautifully timed, you can't just rush in and get 2 free kills. So while Kayn is clearing with the utmost efficiency, Amumu hits crab, dives top, all expected. The Kayn wastes no time because of the early ward, understands that the Krugs will be up and heads directly for the counter jungle. Remember, if you're going to be a farming jungler and you're going to ignore ganking to a certain degree unless it's opportunistic, you must counter jungle well. Take the Krugs, but if the enemy bot lane understands this and rotates, be very careful. Do the calculations. Can you fight? What is the state of mid? Don't bait your team if you simply want to hit it and quit it. This counter jungling is denial, and any failed ganks or time wasted by the enemy jungler like the Amumu will greatly cost the ganking jungler and benefit the farming jungler. But at the same time, please don't overtly greed for camps, as not every farming jungler will have the mobility to escape this 2v1. And yes, I see it a lot. You guys stay to take the raptors with the echo still there, and then you die, blame the mid laner. No, that's on you. Once you've done that, head directly to the tier 2 raptor spawn intending to take the tier 2 Krugs, and then of course reset. But Kayn's Silas snatches the 1v1 kill, Amumu is too slow to get anything, and Kayn helps push out the wave, and then says, you know what, while I'm here, let me go directly to the Amumu's tier 2 wolf camp. That's heads up counter jungling, but the Amumu just reset. The Amumu has already bought. He is not quite going to be looking to go back, and so this again is a little bit of a greed play for a tier 2 camp. High risk counter jungling. Sure, he gets some orbs and can say worth if you die, but you're not looking to die. So while he is extremely lucky to not die in this instance, and of course he can say worth it for the orbs, the sad lonely mummy with tears of acid now has priority on another top lane gank, as well as stealing Kayn's tier 2 Krug camp, which is more valuable than the wolf camp you stole, so understand when to counter jungle and when just to, sequence your own camps. Right, on with the good work. Directly down, all of the second blue side spawn. The mummy was top, take crab, take his raptors, and then again as the farming jungler, do the calculations. Amumu top side, your mid is pushed, prime setup for the counter gank. However, as I said, do the calculations. Can you win this? Are you paying attention to the lane states? The Poppy was roaming first, your bot is pushed in, and your Alistar TP to the wrong ward. This means you die. It's good that you're there to have impact, it's good that you are there to get the counter kill, but do be careful as those little fights can swing games very heavily. So far, the Amumu is down almost 20 CS and only has 1 more KP than you and no objectives. The farming is going well, you are looking at a bountiful yield, and the predators are being kept out by the gates. The biggest problem with the farming jungling playstyle in this current meta is when things get more skirmishy, and you aren't ready to win said skirmishes, well, this is where games can swing and you can, lose before you get a chance to scale. You can see the Fiora wants to be saved, but Silas is just coming back from base, Echo will have prio. You cannot afford to help the Fiora here. You see, Amumu is punishing the Kayn's bottom lane for diving, and now instead of just taking a red, letting the Fiora die, and perhaps using that as a segue into a full blue side counter jungle, and maybe even a herald, the baby Kayn is dead. Instead of having a huge swing in experience and map cadence, you get nothing. As we said, with farming comes the ability to counter gank the ganking jungler Just because one time it doesn't really work out doesn't mean you stop trying. And after death there might be nothing, but in League of Legends you can come back, sequence bot to top, see the enemy jungler head to the blue, cut them off and then eliminate them with justice. But don't greed. I know you want form, I know you want orbs, but that's what I'm showing you this game. The player does so many right things, but then throws away so much with needless deaths. And that's why this is interesting, because a lot of times when you're a scaling jungler, you can afford sometimes to have a few mistakes like this, especially if the other team doesn't capitalize. Nonetheless, Rost lives, Kayn has a lead, and as you can see, will finally win fights, dominate the river, and start rinsing objectives to transition to the mid game. All through a heavy big brain farming focus, minus a few ints, he used the pathing and ganking mindset of the enemy jungler to stifle them, prevented his own scaling by counter jungling, forced lanes to ward and consider the Kayn's location, and in turn was able to get Ras and absolutely take over. And that wasn't even perfectly played, there were a lot of mistakes, so that shows you the window you have even on high elo to still turn things around. However, what if you are against another omnivore type that can do the same thing to you? That, if fed, can ruin your day in the worst way. Yes, Graves is still a thing, unfortunately. Getting a first blood kill is nice from a cheeky invade, but it doesn't impact our strategy. Most likely, Graves will start red, can sequence down, or simply invade your blue. Therefore, a leashless start on Raptors allows you to go red Krugs and then look for the invade, if you have prior. For this style of gank heavy jungling, you must assess lane prior for every move you make, just like Season 10. Contest the blue, attempt to steal, but do not stay long. Transition into a mid gank before heading to the top crab. This will give away bottom crab and set up Graves to take your second tier raptor spawn as well as Krugs, but in this game we have business, and that business is ganking. Dive top, get the kill. This activity, combined with Graves being collapsed upon, allows you the driver's seat of control if you can farm well in between the ganking activity. It's much like the last game, except the roles are swapped, and that's the beauty of Kayn. But how does he succeed where Amumu failed? After a good early game rotation like that, you must still control your cams. All of blue side must be down in order to help you sequence from top to bottom. This is so we can take our second red, this is so we can take dragon, and of course counter jungle should the Graves show on the top side. Ah, there he is, okay, directly to the wolves. And what I see after that from many players that try to play Kayn is they'll do the grump, fall back to the red side jungle and just farm it up. That was the last example. This example we're ganking. Dive the enemy Ezreal and let that be the end of the story. Please don't hang on for another 3 seasons even though you've run out of material, because that's how you feed a rumble. All 3 lanes have now felt the presence of your gentle touch. Respawn out of base, do raptors, sync with the set, kill Ezreal again. He's covering mid lane while the rumble was bot, don't let him get away with that. You translate that into red Krugs, loop back to the dragon when you know the river is safe, and remember, the ganks lead to farm or counter jungling, which leads to objectives. In doing so, you can maintain a lead with the enemy jungler while helping lanes get a lead of their own, but you do stifle your own XP infusion, which is okay if you are doing the strategy correctly. But if you make bad ganking assessment and you fail, if you make bad counter jungling assessment and you fail, you will simply be out-farmed and out-experienced and maybe getting a 21-minute form. After the dragon, crabs, base, intend to do wolves into grump into a top lane gank, this time farming and then ganking just to, beef up the experience a bit. But if you see the enemy mid disappear and your jungle senses start tingling, look to see if your middle support want to roam as well. Maybe they want to have a gank. Try and sync up with them as they want to do it. Don't do the grump first. Obviously, this is more for the diamond gamers than the bronze gamers, but you never know when someone might roam once every 10 games. Even though Kayn is spotted on a well-placed control ward, he is much stronger pre-form than most know, and now is able to convert that to more kills and more assists. Although again, please watch the greed, because Kayn just gave Graves quite a bit. Now you have form, you have items, this is an absolute win. Now you can spend your time rinsing camps, rotating to fights, and while Graves did an okay job of being on the map and farming, he only got back into it from the Kayn's greed on the top side that allowed him to get plates, counter jungle, shut down gold, and some more farm. If that did not occur, the Kayn would be even further ahead than he is, and because of the gank priority focus, and that he had presence in every one of the lanes like a well-rounded student, his laners were also way further juiced as a byproduct. However, one of my favorite ways to play the game, if your jungling style allows both, and if you're against another farming jungler, is to be able to read, react, and flex decision making quickly, while having a good read and tracking of the enemy jungler. Let's just quickly talk about the highlights of a third game here to give you an idea of what I mean, but the theory of this is broken down in the 5 tips to become a jungle god that was released last week. I love full clearing and then assessing where the enemy jungler started, what they want to do. And if it's an enemy Lilia who goes tower diving and dies, I'm not wasting time rotating to a doomed situation. You take the crab, you gank the mid lane and kill the Zed, get some orbs, take the second crab, and now because you started with a full clear, you can loop around to your tier 2 Krugs and your tier 2 Raptors. The benefit of this is follows. If the enemy bot is pushed up, well, we can gank that again. If not, we can continue with the farming as I just said. Now because the enemy jungler is also a farmer, what do farming junglers love to do when you've gone back to base? Steal your Raptors, and they steal them often. So by doing a full clear, getting double crab, assessing your gank prior, and then looping back again, you are most likely going to run into the enemy jungler if they decide to do this. And then because you're Kayn and you're stronger than you think and what everyone tells you, you just kill her and get some free orbs. Now you can do tier 2 wolves, tier 2 grump, you've done 2 full sequences, you're level 6, and it's way before anyone else on the map is ready to deal with you. Now from that, if you're a Karthus, you just keep farming and press R when it's relevant. But I love what this Kayn does. Instead of going back to the farming immediately, well, we hit level 6, let's go directly to bottom lane and try make something happen. Unfortunately, this is why everyone hates Tahm Kench. And now you know the enemy Lilia or the farming jungler will be also rinsing their second buff spawn. This means, my children, if a fight breaks out, please, again, don't greed. I think, what's funny is these are all 3 different Kayn players. They've all reached Challenger. One is currently in Challenger. It's all on Korea and EU West. I am absolutely perplexed at some of the deaths in these games, but it is what it is. With Kayn, it's always a case of if you're really close to form and you might be able to pick up a kill, it's kind of worth doing because as you can see, he has already reached blue Kayn at 7.5 minutes. And now because you're behind and you're farming from the ganking nonsense, you respawn, you go red upwards, and you would normally like to finish Grump before ganking top lane, but if the lane is low, use your F keys, click around. If there is an opportunistic gank, leave your camps and rotate immediately. And normally you can very easily transition that into a herald, but if your mid lane is dead or back in base and the enemy jungler's there and your top laner wants to reset and is low, give it up, do your Grump, reset, go bottom side. If the enemy jungler, gets a herald because of the situation and they decide to use it on the top lane, that doesn't mean you go farming. That means we take the dragon, counter objective, and now we can look to dive the bottom lane again. All ganks are during downtime, all ganks are when the ultimate is up, and all ganks are when the enemy jungler isn't in the area. Again though, it's unfortunate the Zed roams to, use the ignite, Rumble sort of tower dives a bit deeper. Overall the play though, the mindset, that was good. So against another farming jungler that's having decent impact, that's making good plays, that's playing in a similar way, that's a good way to stay even with them and, basically get yourself fed so that whenever there's a situation you need to fight, well, we can rotate quickly, we're Kayn, you're going to scale, you're swapping objectives, and all you're doing is priming yourself for those big mid-game fights that will allow your team to break the game open. That of course is a much more high elo way of playing the game. You have to have laners that know what to do, your jungling instincts and reads have to be on point all the time. But it's really the hybrid focus of ganking and farming, and most junglers will have high kill participation, high farm, and good objective control if their champion and their instincts allow them to successfully do this every game. I will link gameplays for each of these 3 styles in the description below, as well as the jungle routes if you're interested. I hope you're able to get some context on ganking, farming, doing both, when you should do them, how you should approach your matchups. And remember, it's preseason. The best preseason players are the ones who read the patch notes and actually understand what the items do because they read the descriptions. So I wish you the best of luck in your games this week. Hopefully there'll be a few more videos coming up before the end of the month. Thank you all so much for the support on the Season 11 content so far. Please do like, share, and comment if you enjoyed and learned something. Please also consider using your subscription on this channel. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.